in a number of conversations recently, I can't help but pick up on people expressing more and more feelings of loss of hope, feelings of being scared for the future. It's something that is certainly being expressed more in recent weeks. I'm reminded of the saying from Nachman of Bratslav, which was turned into a song. I've given sermons about it. Kol ha'ulam kulo geshet sama'od, v'ha'ikar lo lefached klal. The whole world is a very narrow bridge, but what's important is not to be afraid. And I've given a sermon on how the song is not exactly what was meant in the beginning, but the way that we hear that song, the way I hear that song, is an awareness that sometimes things can be scary. That sometimes we can look at the world around us and be concerned. But the most important thing is not that we're not ever afraid, but rather that we're not consumed by fear. And if the whole world is a very narrow bridge, what that means is directionality, purpose. We're not staying in the same place. We're aware that either side there's the potential to fall, but we still keep moving forward. And that is the optimism that's in Judaism, the optimism that we can help with our steps, just move things forward. And in these conversations, I've found myself sometimes responding with a similar theme about what does it mean to be subversive in this time. And a time where I think we're moving into cruelty being more openly expressed in general society, where those who are most vulnerable are now much more scared, and for good reason. As institutions that we relied on to help support people are dismantled, what can we do other than give in to fear? Well, I think one of the answers, there are many answers, but one of them is not just stand up and resist and stand up for what you believe in. And that's a totally appropriate response, but not everyone has the power to do that or the strength to do that. Maybe sometimes we need to take care of ourselves. And there's an interesting expression, a modern expression called doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is an obsession that some people find themselves in challenging times when they find themselves looking at the news and they just scroll through Facebook feeds, social media feeds, and it's just doom after doom after doom, and it becomes known as doom scrolling. But it doesn't have to be doom scrolling, it can be the opposite. It can be hope scrolling. Maybe one of the reasons that people do this is because they're looking for goodness. And sometimes instead of looking for goodness outside, we can find it within ourselves. And the most subversive act we might be able to do, if we feel like we don't have any power to affect change, is to make sure that we're not transformed, that we don't give up hope, that we keep an eye on the end of the bridge. And this reminds me of the story of Lot, in a midrash which describes Lot at the gates of Sodom, a terrible place. And every day he sits at the gates of Sodom and he tries to change the people. He tells them about what they're doing that's so wrong, so cruel, so mean. And day after day they ignore him. And one day after years, somebody turns to him and says, "Why are you doing this? You know we're not going to change." To which Lot says, "At first I did this in order to try to change you, but now I do this to make sure that you don't change me." And so maybe one of the most subversive acts we can do, if we are struggling with the state of the world, is to lift ourselves. And there's a tradition in Judaism of saying 100 blessings a day. And I think that's quite radical. I think it's quite subversive. Instead of doom scrolling, turning around and saying, "Isn't it amazing that I have the ability to access information online?" We have a prayer in our Siddur, Nukavim, Nukavim, that thanks God for our body opening and closing in the right way. It's a prayer that we traditionally recite after going to the bathroom. Being able to stop and say, "Isn't this amazing? the fact that I am still alive, the fact that I have clothes that I can wear, the fact that I have food, that I have running water, that I have electricity, all of these things are extraordinary. And the reason that's so subversive is because it ensures that we protect ourselves, and that we don't become broken. Because if we become broken, then we can't change anything. We can only focus on ourselves. But if we reinforce ourselves, if we remind ourselves of our goodness and the goodness in our lives, then we can take care of others as well. So if you're feeling challenged right now, maybe it's a chance to say a blessing. Maybe it's a chance to reflect on the world around you. That's not to say that we ignore the negative things or we pretend they don't exist. Of course not. But at the same time, being able to say, I'm thankful I'm here. And that seems particularly appropriate this week. You may not have even realized last Saturday was 5 years since the start of the pandemic. It's 5 years since everything closed down, schools closed, our temple stopped having people on site, except for staff who just kept going. Everything shut down, and people were afraid that the whole social order was going to collapse, essentially, that institutions were going to collapse. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. And yet, 5 years on, we're still here. We're strong, really strong. We're growing, we're learning, we're developing. And I think that's something to be thankful for. And if nothing else, we can be thankful for community. We can be thankful for a place where we can come together and share our thoughts. And we can come together and pray and talk and reflect and just be in each other's company and say, this is amazing. So we can look back and say, remember how bad it was? Look where we are 5 years on. And taking that long distance view can sometimes be really helpful. Because where is the end of that bridge? If the whole world is a very narrow bridge that we are to walk across, where's the end? It's not tomorrow. It's not next month. This is long distance. This is a lengthy journey. So how do we make sure, even if we're afraid of what happens, even if we're concerned that we might fall, and it's a very valid, real concern, how do we make sure that we have the strength to take the next step and then the next one? And one of the ways we can do that is by saying how wonderful it is that we're even able to take that step. And we can do it in community. We can support each other in our steps and help everyone across the bridge. We have lots happening this weekend. Tom Udall and Jill Cooper are returning. They've returned from Tom's posting as the US ambassador to New Zealand and Samoa. And they're going to be sharing observations during the Oneg on the lifetime of public service, how Santa Fe has changed them, and how Temple Beth Shalom has changed them. It's going to be wonderful. I'm going to abridge the sermon again, which is good for a lot of people, I think, so that they can speak as much as possible during the Oneg. We expect there to be quite a few people there, so please come and join us for that. Tomorrow morning, our Torah study is on how is it that the Torah commands the Israelites to put dolphin skins on the tabernacle. Where are they going to get dolphin skins from? And the rabbis actually translate it rather differently. They translate it as something perhaps even less believable. And so we're going to discuss it. It's a rather interesting, rather fun conversation, especially after the seriousness of last week's conversation. And immediately after the service, we're gathering together to work out what can we do to help our community move forward in social justice and social action. In some of the things I've been asking people about over the last few weeks to sign up. It's immediately after the service at 11:30. Please join us, help us form our plan on homelessness and immigration and environmental justice and gun violence prevention and anti-Semitism and protecting democracy and all these things. We need your voice. please look at the e-blast that went out on Monday or Tuesday. Please, I think it was Tuesday. Please have a look at that e-blast for the times for the different topics, and please come and give us your thoughts. If you are feeling concerned, if you're feeling a loss of hope, if you're not sure where the end of the bridge is or how to take the next step, if you need support, come and talk to me. Come and privately, we can have a conversation, or come and join us and be with community as we all take the next step forward into Shabbat and into the next week. I hope to see you then, and I wish you Shabbat Shalom.